During the decade from 2001 to 2011, for which we have the last census data, Bangalore grew by 48% in a decade. I would say the average citizen, their view really is, I pay my taxes, I pay my bribes. Make the place work. You normally get involved with what makes you angry. If I think about it, the state of the civic infrastructure, the state of the public spaces actually makes me angry. There are many C's that ails us in government at one level.
He said, sir, then it's a failure. I bribe every day. And he said, my bribing is much more than what I did before.
And it's ironic, I've heard people say, because I work a lot with the government system, I said, look, these raids that happen, isn't it an embarrassment or so much was found? He says, not at all. He says, for the person concerned, actually their prospects in the marriage market have improved. I always make the point that these are silos, these government agencies, designed to withstand a nuclear attack. What is going to save humanity are women. I mean, when I was running my firm, I had 7 people reporting to me. That's 6 of them were women. And I've seen repeatedly in my life that women are the differentiator and who can make the difference. The men have lost it. One of the key learnings I've had over 25 years, you can achieve a lot if you allow someone else to take the credit.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ajay Kumar. I'll be doing frequently podcasts on various issues. It may involve healthcare in the country, how to bring about, bridge the gap in the healthcare in this country, how do we provide the right healthcare for individuals. It may be about education, bringing parity in education and also disparity in wealth. How do we bridge the gap? And in this discussion, we'll take up issues regarding urban, rural issues, women issues, and we'll also bring in experts who have spent their life in this to discuss these issues with me on a discussion basis. Doing this, it is very important you all actively participate in this, give your opinion also, so hopefully we can make a change in the way things are running for the better. This is a journey. I'm asking you all to be part of it. Thank you. Hello everyone. I'm very happy to have today Mr. Ravichandar, who is a well-known person. One can say actually, who doesn't know him in Bangalore? Whenever it comes to Bangalore city, urban, public-private partnership, the Bangalore International Center, his name is associated with for his tremendous work he has done for the last several decades, actually 25 years or more. So it's indeed a pleasure to have you, Mr. Ravichandar, and I would like to first of all start by asking, what is your passion? Now you are involved in this so much. What is your passion and where do you see your passion leading to you? And later on, maybe we can discuss some of the details of this passion you have.
Thank you. First, thank you, Doctor, for having me on this podcast. So it's a great honor to be here. So to this question of passion, actually, initially it was a case of serendipity. I mean, I used to run my own services business till 2000. In 2000, I had a chance to work with Nandan under the Bangalore Agenda Task Force when S.M. Krishna was the Chief Minister. Yes. And I got hooked. So in a sense, I discovered what I want to do through my involvement 25 years ago in the Bangalore Agenda Task Force. I was involved in the self-assessment scheme of property tax and a whole lot of initiatives. And though I used to consult in the private sector for businesses to grow their businesses, moving a millimeter in the public space, the government public space, gave me far more joy than anything I had done as a consultant for the private sector. And that is when I realized that I seem to have found something that appeals to me. So it was more chance at one level. Maybe if BATF had not happened, I would have just continued doing my business or whatever. But having found that and being in a fortunate position where I was able to pursue my work in the civic space and subsequently in the public spaces without caring for, basically we had financial stability. So that allowed me to experiment. So I've been very fortunate and privileged to be able to work in the space that I have done, which is to work with government in fixing hard infrastructure very unsuccessfully, I must say, or governance issues, or creating public spaces through private effort, but they are truly public spaces as really. So in a sense, if you today ask me what's the thing that really gets me out of bed, the ability to create more and more public spaces. Our public spaces are shrinking as the city is getting over concretized. Places for community to gather, places for arts and culture, they're all reducing. And today that is my passion. I just want to close with one point out here. You know, the question you asked is the question that is always asked. What is the passion? What drives you? What I have discovered over my 25 years, and especially getting involved in these things, it is you normally get involved with what makes you angry. If I think about it, the state of the civic infrastructure, the state of the public spaces actually makes me angry. And that is the reason I think I am involved. While passion is necessary, that this is something that is fulfilling and you feel good about it, but I think to sustain it for a long period of time, you need to be angry about the state of affairs and say, I will do something about it. So that my only thing really is, anger sometimes is not a bad emotion if it gets you to do something good. Doctor.
No, very well articulated. In fact, we have a lot of similarities. Being in healthcare, when I was in US, I always saw what was the differences in cancer care between India and the US. But what made me, I don't know if it's anger or it made me compulsory, or I call it internal compulsion, to come back to India was the great difference I saw in the care. And in India, we were still saying when a unit like cobalt was phased out because of the harmful effect it was doing in cancer patients, India was still celebrating cobalt, saying we're a poor country.
Right.
My view was whether it's a poor or a rich, cancer doesn't know. It only knows one thing, how to dominate over you.
Correct.
We have to do. So that is what compelled me to come and take up this. At that point, in fact, like you said very well, financial stability, I didn't know what is revenue, what is margin, anything. My only goal was, can I bridge the gap in cancer care? And it is a journey like what you have done. But coming back to,
and here I'd like to just say, what you have achieved in the space, your chosen space in cancer care is amazing. I mean, in terms of, and you've found low cost options. I mean, I do not know the finer details, but from what I know, and you have created this chain, accessible healthcare, and you have also reinvested in rural India and through your Antadhwani efforts. So all in all, Doctor, more power to your elbow, and we need more people like you. And I just hope that with this current trend of people leaving the states, more people are goaded into coming here and serving our society.
No, absolutely, and that's a point about we will also discuss. But I think we are in the same boat with a lot of these things. Your passion, giving up the industry to really go on to this, how many people would do that? And I think it is a phenomenal model role, what others should really think of. And that is something I believe, we may be lacking. When I was born in Bangalore, grew up, Bangalore was known as Garden City. And of course, people have come from there. At that time, the population was not even 1.5 million. Today, we are talking about 14 million.
That's right.
And what is your view, how we have grown, urbanization, we talk about environment issues, environment, the pollution is related to health. All of these are somewhat related, even affordability is related. How can Bangalore be a model with a lot of efforts? Do you see any hope? People talk about traffic, congestion. People talk about, I love Bangalore weather, but I just don't like the traffic. Are there answers to this? Can we find, recently I was in Europe and you have been also, how they have been able to take a old city and reconfigure it to make it like a new part, old part, and pedestrians part, walking. And is it possible also to create so people don't congest in the center of the city? Can we put a tax on them so people use public transportation? I'm sure you've gone into the depth of it. It will be phenomenal to hear from you.
Sure, Doctor. So first, in terms of how did we get to 2025 and the current traffic jam, the garbage problems, the pollution, the flooding, I mean, you name a problem, we have it. The interesting thing is we also have people who have thought about how to fix it. It's just that we are having a challenge in getting many of those ideas accepted on the ground. How did we get here? So if I roll back, during the decade from 2001 to 2011, for which we have the last census data, Bangalore grew by 48% in a decade.
Wow.
Okay. Now 48% in a decade for Bangalore's size, which at the start of that particular thing was about 6 million odd, is one of the highest growth rates in the, not the highest growth rate for a city of that size anywhere in the world.
Wow.
That is what we experienced during 2001 to 2011. This is statistical fact.
Yes.
Now, this kind of growth would have tested the best of government systems, the best of political leadership, the best of bureaucracy, the best of technocrats. This kind of growth would have been a challenge, even in a system where we have a good governance system. We do not have a proper governance system. We lack leadership, political, bureaucratic of the kind that was required. So this was a tsunami waiting to happen, and consequently, we have been overtaken by events on the which we are no longer in control of, and we have become this over-concretized city. As IISc has put out a report, almost 88-89%.
No, you talk about governance. Can we touch on that a little bit? Because when we talk to normal public, like the other day I was talking to a contractor who had built a property. We were trying to negotiate the building. I said, look, we can't bribe, we can't do blah, blah, blah. I told him 10 points under which we can't work. He said, sir, then it's a failure. I bribe every day. And he said, my bribing is much more than what I did before. So the public perception is the reason Bangalore is not able to urban the traffic, roads, potholes, they blame everything on the corruption. Is it really true? Is the corruption to that extent coming in the way of development? And who are really responsible? And as we move forward, the indicators again among the public feedback, corruption is only worse. Is that really true, or is it a perception?
Yeah. So since you use the C word, you're a doctor involved with cancer, so you brought corruption. To that I can add capacity, I can add commitment, I can add competence. There are many C's that ails us in government at one level. Corruption is rampant. It is the elephant in the room. In fact, the standard, I would say the average citizen, their view really is, I pay my taxes, I pay my bribes. Make the place work.
Correct.
The problem today, what is happening is, despite paying the taxes and the bribes, the system is not delivering. That is really the problem, and the heart of it goes down to governance at one level. And the governance really is, just to give you, to make it come alive, we always think BBMP is the problem. But when I think about my life, I think BBMP is less than 30% of my life. You want transport, BMTC, BMRCL outside of the BBMP remit. You want water supply and sewerage, BWSSB, outside the BBMP remit. Police, traffic, law and order, outside the BBMP remit. I could go on. Most subjects that you touch are actually outside the BBMP, and these are what are called parastatals or independent government agencies. I always make the point that these are silos, these government agencies, designed to withstand a nuclear attack. And we as citizens, we want outcomes, and anyone will tell you to get outcomes, you have to be able to thread a needle through multiple departments. You'd see road cutting mess, various things. Many departments have to work in sync to make this happen. So we do not have a governance structure where you can knock the heads of the various people. Now there's a Greater Bangalore Governance Bill with which I'm associated with. Only 20% of what we wrote has got accepted in principle, but I still think that 20% is better because we're at least trying to get a convergence of these agencies. To go back to your point on corruption, corruption is endemic. And unfortunately, the system is set up to fail because if your government posting is based on giving a bribe.
Correct.
The system is failing at the start. So the way it works is, I might give you, let's say 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs to get one constable job.
Yes.
I don't know if you even know the rate card, but it exists. Now the moment I have paid you, when I take money, the way I rationalize it is, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Correct.
I gave the system money and I'm just recovering it. So I am actually rationalizing it, saying I'm not doing anything wrong. I have collected my 20 lakhs. I have not got caught. And suddenly everybody has got used to more money coming in. Then it continues.
Well, this is exactly the point. I had a anti-corruption meeting a few years ago. I had one of the famous contractors come and talk in front of it, and there were judges and everybody. He said, look, when I bribe, I am giving some money out of my profits. So when you say build a fantastic road, I cannot build a fantastic road because I have to recover my bribe.
Exactly.
In order to recover my bribe, the road is going to be inferior
You
quality.
got the answer. You mentioned the answer. That is the problem.
Yes. And the other question is, I always talk to some of my bureaucratic friends, and I asked them, look, it was like one day there was a bureaucrat who was organized a meeting for all the healthcare, IAS officer, health secretary. He was just month before he was metro secretary. Now the secretary is sitting there at the head of the table and teaching all of us about healthcare. So I asked him, look, last month you were metro expert, now you are healthcare expert. So this business of bureaucrats, IAS officers, is there an inherent problem itself? Should we have more technocrats who are expert, like you are expert in working on that? But the person who is ultimately decides could be an IAS officer or a politician who has no knowledge, who has got some vested interest, or he or she is going to be transferred in few years.
Right.
Is there a need for system to change? So this, in fact, I told one of my colleagues who was former chief secretary, should we have a system where they are trained and placed in it?
Right.
The reason they are transferred is because maybe of corruption or something. But since corruption is already rampant, that has not solved the issue.
Correct.
Should we relook at this and say, how do we create technocrats who will really have involved in city planning, urbanization, work with people like you to develop that? Even healthcare. We have a healthcare healthcare secretary who is a decision maker, who has no knowledge about healthcare.
So you have hit on one of the big problems. So the IAS as generalist and the transferable officer is definitely a huge problem.
Yes.
Because
we are following the British era.
In one lifetime it is not possible, and it is necessary for a certain kind of administrative thing. But increasingly, whether it be in the area of technology, healthcare, etc., specialization is the order of the day.
Correct.
And there is no way. Therefore, the IAS officer's skills have to become to be good listeners, to be humble that they do not know many things. They are there in power, but the ability to listen to others, etc., is really what's required.
But by the time they grasp it, they're transferred.
Agreed. But the problem is to do away with the IAS. I'm being pragmatic. Not going to happen in our lifetime.
But why not? See, this IAS, ICS officers came from British era. Let us talk about the British looted the country for 200 years. At one time, we were 25% of the world GDP. Yes. We lost everything in 200 years. And we are still following the British Constitution era, everything. Is it not a time to relook? Hey, in 70 years, we are here. Why is China so far ahead? What is the reason? Should we reorganize this bureaucracy? In fact, one IAS officer told me, I asked him, I confront people, why is this happening? He said, doctor, look at my house, big house. Look at the people working, helping me, 10 people here. So I would think I will give away. Exactly. You have to come and snatch it from me, he said. What is the answer?
Before I come, it's the same thing. For example, people believe that city needs a mayor who's in charge of the city. But who has to give the powers to the mayor? The state government. Yes. And the state system. Why will they give away the powers which is cutting their own legs? Not going to happen. The same is the challenge with IAS. A radical thought really is actually, I believe, if you want to be pragmatic in the current system, we need not just that technocrats are better than the IAS is not, I don't believe is the answer, because there is a way bureaucracy works, and that art of the bureaucracy is a challenge, especially when you're working on scale, rural, urban, etc. What you really need is an underlying administration system which keeps those wheels moving. One way is to look at the American system where the political leader bring their secretaries.
Correct.
The danger in that, because you're in health, in the US you now have Kennedy, who's the health secretary, who doesn't believe in vaccines and a
Correct,
whole lot of
correct.
other
Okay,
things.
now,
So
until
you
now-
run that risk, but you elected a political party, and that political party has a certain ideology in all these spaces that comes with the territory, and he will go when Trump's term is over. So there is some merit to say, and that way you actually bring committed officers who are committed to that particular political goal. Honestly, might be a better option with an underlying base system, which need not be the IAS, but there's an underlying admin. So I think the challenge for us, doctor, is the following. We need to recognize we are in a dysfunctional system. We must, that is the first thing, we have to look in the mirror and say, I am seeing imperfection.
Correct.
I am seeing dysfunctionality. And then got to figure out how can I get from dysfunctionality to functionality. This transformative, that this was here yesterday and tomorrow it's going to be all fixed, I don't think is going to work for India and given our political structure, etc. Ours is going to come through incrementalism unless we have a set of leaders who can be transformative. At this point of time, one doesn't see that on the horizon, and therefore we'll have to take what I call the north by northwest syndrome. You know that you need to reach north, and you know that the easiest way to reach north is to fly north, but often you have to take detours, what I call the north by northwest model of reaching where you need to reach, but willing to take detours. If you are pragmatic, it is possible. Otherwise, we can rail, the system doesn't work. But unless we have prescriptions for an alternative system and a political path to get the alternative system, political bureaucratic path to get the alternative system, it will just be cocktail conversation.
But the unfortunate thing here is, like what I see in US, nearly 80% are income taxpayers.
Yes.
And each representative is worried about their constituency because they are paying income tax and demanding is the money used properly or not for certain things. Now in India, this is my view, I would like you to discuss. When it comes to income tax, personal income tax, only 2.5% are paying income tax. In that also there is a big gap, those who are high paying and all. So when I look at whatever I am doing in Gundalpet and all that, we have interviewed nearly, I would say, 100,000 people. First of all, they don't know what is income tax. They don't. Second thing is, they don't. And the politicians say, what income tax? My constituency is non-income tax paying. So why should I cater to you all? They say, you are paying tax, but I will do the money way I want. If I want to create freebie for bus, if I want to give 3,000 rupees, I'll take your money and give, but you don't have any right, man.
Right.
See, they are absolutely clear because we are not their vote bank. And hardly any of us also vote. That's another issue. You know, in Bangalore, only 40% or so vote. Because people who want a change creep. And once I was giving a talk to the doctors, I told them, look, doctors are also notorious for generating cash until recently, I don't know now. Stuff their pillows and not pay any income tax. Lot of doctors in private practice, not corporate, private, who make money cash. Maybe because they say, what is the money used for? And all. So I told them, if the road is bad, if you are not paying income tax, you don't have a right to say the road is bad because you are not fulfilling your duty. Right. Okay. So, and then there is a controversy, things like Henry David Thoreau, once he was not paying tax in Boston area. The local sheriff said, hey, Henry, you are not paying tax. He said, no, because of slavery, Mexican, unusual things the government is doing, we don't agree. Why should my tax money? I will not pay. Then he said, I have no choice. I have to put you in jail. He said, you have a choice. He said, what is my choice? You can resign your job. So my question is there enough people understanding this, willing to revolt on this? Or are we going to put up with this and say, you use my tax money wherever I want? And also, there are people who can pay tax, rich farmers, rich things. They are not in the tax ambit. And if we collect more tax, maybe we can use it for rural development and all. That vision is lacking.
Yes.
Even Bangalore development, BBMP says, I've not got enough money. So what is your thought on this?
So my thought, I mean, the point you make about income tax is valid, but to my mind, it's a little more complicated at the end of the day. One is the government, of course, is increasingly relying on indirect taxes,
Correct.
GST, which is so unfair to the poor.
Correct.
Because it's an unfair levy, because they all pay the same GST.
Correct.
And, and at the same time, somebody like Mr. Chidambaram in Parliament once famously said, lawyers don't provide a service and therefore they are not liable to pay GST. So that's the state of affairs. So the indirect taxes is something which is unfair. Economists will tell you that the most fairest of taxes are taxes that are buoyant, income linked, etc., which brings us to income tax. The problem today is, do we have the political courage to bring more people under the tax net? To some extent, through formalization of the economy, which is one of the initiatives of this government, which I fully approve, there's been an increasing effort to bring more people into the net through Jandan and various other things. But that more people coming into the net is landing up more for the indirect taxes. It's not so much yet coming into the direct taxes. Formalization of the economy is the way to go. The more you formalize the economy, the better we are going to get into this whole thing. And they're trying various ways of PAN number required for this, PAN number required for that. The tax exemptions, now whether it be political people or whether it be farmers and all, will require political courage to say, because you mentioned rich farmers. At one level there is no tax, at another level there's fertilizer subsidy.
Yes.
I mean, on both sides you're gaining. On this side you're gaining. So,
I know betel nut farmers in areas of Malnad. I know them personally. Their tax-free income is 8 to 10 crores a year.
yes.
Tax-free income.
And then you find city dwellers declaring themselves as farmers, which is again a fudge.
And some of us pay 40% tax.
And the only people who are finally getting hit, who are employees of firms, who are in that small tax net. So it is highly iniquitous. It needs to be rectified. Formalization is a way to go. But to get to a larger direct tax base, it will require increasingly more political capital to be expended in that area. The second thing is, I'm a believer that overall lower tax rates encourages more people to come into it, so that you get away from the higher tax regime. And I would go to a third idea, and these are for the richer people. Just like you have an idea of CSR and 2% of CSR, correct, why don't we have a concept of ISR, individual social responsibility?
Absolutely.
And if I, as a well-to-do individual from my personal wealth, are clearly with the same guidelines that you have for CSR and monitoring, are able to show that I'm using this to develop something which is entitled to an ISR relief, give a tax break for that.
So I think it is a fantastic idea which we have all discussed in Antardhwani. It's amazing to hear from you this idea. Because I feel like people come from different walks of life. They have a passion for certain things. And they don't know where this money will go in the big pot. So if they are allowed, like for example, what I have proposed is, if you take 100 villages, I'll say I'll create, or 10, I want, whether you come from there or connection, or I will develop this as part of my CSR, create model. It could be named under them.
Right.
It could be named under whatever the person's name is. And he will be proud that I have left a legacy of doing this, and he will spend. I think that is what.
And I'm basically going. I don't have a corporate entity.
Yes.
So I, as the individual, have personal wealth which I'm ready to spend on this. So that's why I've been advocating ISR for about 10-15 years.
This is an idea we should take it forward, and see how we can populate this through meeting the necessary revenue people and all that. This will make a phenomenal change.
Exactly.
See, I call it a capitalization. There in India, there are 684 rural areas. There are Bangalore, of course, and other things, but rural. How do we bring parity with that? Because if you look at rural schools, and I run a rural school, people come to 8th standard, unfortunately, even though the government has done a lot of things, they will not know what is 8 times 8.
Correct.
And
I know.
So how do we bring rural children on par? You have to improve their economic condition. I think one of the things we have learned in our Gundalpet with 150 villages, people love to have good healthcare and education. For them, that is important. But that opportunity is not provided. For example, a rural, I've interviewed a lot of children with BCom degrees, MCom. They are from rural. I asked them, why are you unemployed? By some statistics, unemployment in rural is 40-50%. I asked them why. At one interview, 1,000 people came from all over, Shivamogga and all to Mysore. I said, why are you here? No jobs. Because you got BCom, MCom degree. They said, nobody. And they are competing with city kids.
I know.
Who
It's
got
not a level
MCom.
playing
They
field.
are not a level playing field. So how do we bring about this? Because intelligence is there. Extraordinary students come out. Even the rural kids come. But average, above average, they cannot. So I think, how do we capitalize rural? So migration to urban areas stops. How do we create, like one time there was a concept of purams.
Correct.
How do we create this infrastructure, roads and all? That is something, based on what you said, creating this individual
Social
welfare should be done. I think this is a great idea. We should take it forward.
In fact, talking of ideas, there's another one I want to think, and I want to go back to our earlier discussion on corruption. It's also linked with money. In fact, in my learning, I designed the city's property tax self-assessment scheme of property tax. It was based on an underlying principle: trust the citizen to tell the truth, rather than expecting a revenue officer to uncover a lie. Because the revenue officers used to take bribes, city used to get less money, people used to pay bribes and this thing. With self-assessment, it's a lot more transparent and the money you pay goes to the government. That's the idea. Therefore, you reduce discretion in the system as a way. So a radical idea even on corruption and bribes. Bribes is a reality. Why not decriminalize bribe giving like the Tatkal scheme, and pay a bribe to an officer, but that person has to report it in the income tax returns and pay 30% tax on it.
Okay. How did it go?
No, nobody is accepting it, but I'm too radical. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, today this whole thing is happening in a cash economy. Surface it to the formal economy, allow like a Tatkal scheme, and it is publicly known that I paid 1 lakh to get this thing done, but that 1 lakh is in that fellow's tax return and the government is getting 30%. I personally believe that eradicating corruption, because we don't have a concept of rule of law or this, you may have the odd cases.
But let us talk about this corruption a little bit. You have been abroad, I lived there for 25 years. See, one of the things I noticed when early time is my children went to school and house registration and all, they would come home and register. Registration was considered a benefit to the society.
Yes.
So when I interviewed, I was on the school board. When I interviewed and talked, I like to really provoke people and ask questions. They said, why there is no corruption? There is corruption at high level. At level, because we take pride in not accepting bribe. See, one of the things we lack in our schools, college, education is, take pride about yourself, your country and you. If I take a bribe, you are demeaning yourself. How do we bring about this change? I think this generation may be lost. Can we look at the next generation? Can we initiate a lot of things at a different level, schools, colleges and all, to bring about this? I have done for example, during Anna Hazare's time, we did a big 5,000 people march in Gundalpet against bribe.
Right.
5,000 women came and we wrote in the charter, we will not give bribes or do anything to anyone. Because people are ready. It needs somebody to a catalyst. What is your view?
Even the India Against Corruption, there was such a groundswell of this thing. Of
course, it's
died. So there's clearly that groundswell is there against.
But can we bring pride to the next generation?
So it has to be next generation. I'll tell you on this whole, I agree with you that we need to build pride. I work in a government agency which is known to be corrupt. How do I instill pride in the employees? Because they're known to be corrupt. I mean, I don't want to name agencies, but you know that the person is working there, you know the person is corrupt. And it's ironic, I've heard people say, because I work a lot with the government system, I said, look, these raids that happen, isn't it an embarrassment or so much was found? He says, not at all. He says, for the person concerned, actually their prospects in the marriage market have improved. Or, for that family, because they believe that actually they have a lot of wealth. So our standards have dropped so much that we are no longer ashamed of being raided or found. I mean, you now have a judge who is found with money.
Ravichandar, is if children are taught, I believe children can talk to their parents about bribe, about corruption, and children could be a force.
I agree with this totally. In fact, if you remember ages ago when we were young, there used to be a moral rearmament movement based, from Lonavala, Pune, there was this whole thing. And this Gandhi's thing, he was involved, Rajmohan Gandhi was involved in trying to get, it's like the good old civics classes, etc. Today, all of them, so the question really is, how do we mainstream it into mainline curriculum so that it becomes part of the children's DNA? If they see their parents dropping litter, they must point out saying this is not done.
Correct.
You take Japanese culture, it is ingrained in them, not only time. Japanese lost the World Cup football match, but they stayed back to clean the stadium of all the waste. And then they left the place.
So, do you think before British era, was it ingrained in us? Because we talk about Nalanda, we talk big cities, wealth, even in the several books, even recently Golden Age India, and people have written about Silk Road, where they have talked highly about India. India was a model civilization. Do you think the 200 years of rule made us feel so inferior? We lost that thing.
I wouldn't agree with that. It's not because the British also brought in a certain set of, actually the British were quite, forget about the fact that they looted the country, indisputable, and Sashi Tharoor and all have documented that significantly. Yes. But in certain values, British values of right and wrong, a rule-based thing, were pretty good. So I wouldn't put it at the British. We are now so fond of ancient that we were so good. My question then to people today is, what stops you in becoming that today?
Correct.
We just want to talk about it, but not do anything.
What is
action? The problem is action is hard. Talk is cheap.
Why?
That's how we are like this only.
See, when I see a cancer patient who was with let's say a breast cancer, two patients. One of them responds, same disease, same thing. One of them doesn't respond. What I teach my doctors and all, before you go to the next treatment, understand why. See, this why and what is very important.
I agree.
Why did the disease fail? Why did the cancer come back? Is it genomics? Is it something? Is it the not proper treatment? So in this scenario, what you brought up, why? What is the answer?
I'll tell you why. We don't have role models. See, if you take the independence generation, for example, the kind of role models that was there, which caused a certain movement and a certain thing, doesn't exist today. Today, when I look at
should we do
today, I know I might tell you that
you are a role model.
No, I am not. I am an unknown role model. I'm just anonymously.
We should make you a known role model.
So the point, doctor, I can talk to you and tell you Chitragupta will be waiting for you at the end of the day, whether he'll take the green pen or the red pen. I can tell you that.
Yes.
But then you will reply back saying, but when I look around me, all the bad fellows are prospering. So I'm not even sure there's a Chitragupta.
I am visiting the Swargalok and saying, why is the Duryodhana all in flowers where my brothers are suffering?
So something similar. The problem really is, today we are seeing people who, in our moral compass, if I can call it, are not necessarily leading good lives, but are prospering. And then I say that this is the norm. This is the norm. The problem today, you look around us, you look at our leadership, there are people who in the leadership across the world where their personal families are gaining with the decisions that are being made. Now, if this is what I see, how do I go ahead and say, I must be Harishchandra-like? It'll be one lecture, thou shalt not kill, but killing is happening. Thou shalt not maim, but maiming is happening. So my problem really is, we do not have role models, is to my mind the crux of the thing. We don't have credible leaders behind whom we can get in and say, this I agree with and I will change. But I fully agree with you, we have to make efforts at the school level across the board. The problem is the school dropout levels are so high, which is a different problem to solve. So in terms of this thing.
No, I think this is a point which I feel has to be gone into depth, the why and why. Why are we not creating role models? What is are we creating bad role models? The role model itself can be redefined.
Exactly.
Like you said, when we look at either the movie actors or cricketers and all, why IPL is get crowded. You see, we always say so and so got so much money. So we are now becoming, the role models are based on their wealth.
Exactly.
Every day you open
We are celebrating that.
Economic Times, you say so and so has become the richest person in the world. So and so is the number of billionaires have increased in India. Those are becoming the role models rather than people like you, who are really given up a business and say, I'm going to do this. And you are not that, the people don't get excited about it, that you are doing this job, this thing. I think that is another thing. And also the negativism. In today, we go after people who are doing good work and all. Whereas people who are shining, wealth has become a dictator. Is that a right assumption? Or
it is a reasonably good assumption. And also media, TV, social media. I mean, you just take some of these influencers. I know this animal called the influencers on Insta, etc. There's nothing behind it except, projecting the right vibes and the aura, etc. And that has become if you talk the Gen Z language, that is all Sigma level. Now, what do you know of Sigma level? You and I, we know nothing.
So
and these are the people creating the aura in the space.
So how do we counter this is the issue. See, what we are doing, what you are doing, what I may be doing and all, is it a drop in the ocean compared to this enormous force which is building?
It is without a doubt a drop. See, what I have personally for myself, I have resolved for myself that I am not a scale solution provider. Within my own limitations and within the dysfunctionality of the system, I will be the best I can be. So that is my personal definition. People say what you're doing should be impacted on scale. I do. It is happening on scale. BIC is a scale project, or the Bangalore Lit Fest, but within a certain reasonable scale.
But national impact.
I personally believe that the way to go ahead is each have to do what they believe they need to do. So for example, I'm just an ordinary citizen, forget about what my involvement is, and I just see somebody littering. Just telling the person don't do it is good enough. Today what's happening, if I do that and that person will take offense with me, I could become a victim of road rage of a different kind for even trying to point this out.
I used to believe this, but one of the revealing factors for me was this experiment in Gundalpet.
Yes.
We have taken thousands of women who we thought we can't change.
Correct.
But amazing transformation in 15-20 years.
Yes.
Still needs to be done work. But last election also we learned it did not transform fully because they did not support certain things because of casteism and all. But now what we have done is we make memberships. They have to be members of this movement and follow the rules, for which they are taught, trained, even economically they get some benefits in terms of work skill development. Right. So is that something we feel, like I always feel, Mr. Ravichandran, like people say, in my next jam I will do this. But I believe, like when I left US, I always thought people would say, in the next jam maybe you can be an oncologist in India or do all this. I said, no, next jam, now only. I left the practice and came. Now, next jam is we think I should become activism in all over the country. I feel, why not now? We have enough time to do. So the issue is, while we make an impact, as you said, at a personal level, is it not time to spread this message across with the media, social media, so many things we have? You have fantastic ideas, like you brought up about the individual contribution. These ideas people are not looking. I also brought up an idea with some of the investment firms. Suppose there is a high net worth individual. He has put in, let us say, 100 crores. He expects a minimum 10% return. What I proposed is, when it goes beyond 10%, 10 to 12 can he contribute for this cause. After 12 he can take it.
It's like the way the fund managers take, up beyond that, beyond the hurdle rate.
But the authorities give him a tax break, like you suggested. Can we work on some of these things, put together a task force, work on this, because there are enough people working in silos. And we feel we should create better awareness about it.
So the thing they're taking your Gundalpet, which is an amazing, and the concept of self-help groups have always worked.
Yes.
And the concept, I'm a great believer that what is going to save humanity are women. I mean,
Yes.
when I was running my firm, when it was a small firm, I had 7 people reporting to me. We were 40 people or something, and 7 direct reports. 6 of them were women. And I have seen repeatedly in my life that women are the differentiator and who can make the difference. The men have lost it. There's a
And
certain.
women may be also less corrupt. I don't know.
I don't want to generalize with them about being less corrupt. They are definitely a lot more efficient, a lot more, and they juggle many. I mean, I wouldn't be what I am. I wouldn't be half the person, but for my wife. I mean, and her support and her financial support and everything else, which allows me to do the thing. So
I totally agree. I think a lot of the values we have, like I have, is because my mother. My father, my amazing, but mother taught us how to treat other human beings. And you would talk about Karna's character, loyalty, this. We learned a lot on how to address even people or doing other work. We never talk to them in singular language. You should say, you should respect them.
we need to push women more and more into leadership roles, not as tokenism.
And today we don't have.
But that is something which it is not there. Today, even if you look at boards, 1 out of 8 or 10 board members will be a woman. It's more tokenism. I personally believe that is one of the things that could change things significantly in terms of this thing. And coming back to the scaling up. Now, for example, what you have done in Gundalpet, I'm sure you're doing it. You have national plans. I believe that more people need to make their know-how as shareware, open source, and others can replicate on scale.
Correct.
And they don't even need to say, I learned from Gundalpet. You see, the key thing here, what I've learned, one of the key learnings I've had over 25 years, you can achieve a lot if you allow someone else to take the credit.
Correct. Absolutely.
The moment you start saying you're the person who did it,
back
most people say, I am not here for this fellow's greater glory. But if you allow them to take the credit.
See, that is why in Gundalpet, the leaders, they only conduct meetings. There are a lot of people ask, no, I want to ask your opinion on one thing. This Gundalpet model, now we are building a corporate style building, training center and all, using technology to broadcast. Do you think using models like this in a group of villagers, we can now with technology use it to our advantage to pass this message, have multiple training centers across India, create that. Is that something?
Without a doubt. I would actually go for 100 like-minded, high net worth individuals stroke foundations, stroke CSR, and give them in a box the Gundalpet experiment learnings end to end.
Exactly.
Yes, it is ring fenced in a certain geography. Clearly what Gundalpet today and the thing today is very drastically different from the day you entered.
When we entered, the average median income was 3,000 rupees. Today, they're 25,000.
Yes, so the livelihood story is there.
And they come in beautiful saris, wearing, it is a transform.
I know that.
And by the way, I am not from Gundalpet. I am from Bangalore. Nothing to do with
this area you chose. Similarly, I have a batchmate of mine, Ved Arya. So he runs this NGO which creates rural entrepreneurs and just increasing livelihood. It could be milk dairy, this thing, it's a various variety of this thing, pomegranate growing, various things. He has shown it. The key I feel to my mind, ideally, even if you can create an independent third-party repository where ideas are tabled, where people can share, I would actually put one condition. Anybody who brings ideas here and brings the experiment and the data and consequently a construct needs to do it anonymously. Correct. Which means the moment you say, I am bringing this idea, it cannot come on this platform.
But they may like to be honored.
This is the problem. Then ego comes in, doctor. You have to be able to work sans ego. That's the last barrier to be broken. And my point really is, if we can actually create a repository of 150 ideas that have worked around the country, and they come anonymously and tell people, anybody, this is free share, you don't have to acknowledge anybody. Go ahead and use it because go forth and multiply. But we are not ready to do it. And today, for example, this whole thing, I mean, I have been involved in efforts, right now, for example, all those things that I am doing at a personal level, and this is a minor personal level, doesn't have my imprint. Right now, we have restored a 160-year-old building We have spent money to restore it as a public space sabha.
But,
It doesn't carry our name.
But Mr. If you don't carry your name, how can you be a role model? You
No,
have to
but I
become
don't want to be a role model.
That is what we
I don't. I want people to ask, how did this happen?
But people should know you
No,
are
not
doing.
necessary. Not necessary, Doc.
But-
I want people to ask, how is Bangalore Literature Festival running for 13 years as a public festival?
But
No,
there is-
it's a very contrarian model.
Yes.
The mainstream model is the credit model.
not credit, but role model.
No,
See,
but
there
the
could be
problem is, you see it as role model. The others see it as a self-aggrandizement. I'm just being honest out
we
here.
should not worry about others.
No. But the point therefore is, are you more interested in the outcome, or are you more interested that I did it? I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking as a
No,
general
I
purpose.
understand. The problem is, won't the outcome be better because the youth, youngsters look at you. There's a certain person like you, Ravichandar, who did this, gave up. Like we always talk about Gandhi, Nehru, who did all this. So doing that creates, there was a person like this who did it. Let me also give up my business and come. If they don't know your thing.
So if you want change, behavioral change,
Yes.
the better thing is to use the current role model. So for example, if Rajinikanth is a current role model, where I would use Rajinikanth, I would actually do a video shoot of Rajinikanth visiting 5 houses of lorry drivers. I'm just giving a truck problem on the road. He would visit the houses of 5 drivers, and people are wondering why is he landed up here. And he lands up to the 5 houses of lorry drivers who stayed on the left of the road. And therefore, because you find that the slowest vehicles tend to drive on the right side of the road. Use Rajnikant to convey a message that you could expect me to visit you if you stayed in your lane and allowed others to overtake us. I'm just giving that as an example. The same thing can go to health, can go to education. Use the role models of today, which are Virat Kohli and this thing, to convey the message. The story is not in the individual. The story is in using them to convey the message. So, if you can get a Virat Kohli to embrace the idea that this is how...
It's almost like he's doing an ad for you.
But a free ad. But a free ad in a funny manner. Because I'm just using the Rajnikant as an example. I've always believed that ad people should spend their time with 5 or 10 social media ads of this kind, which can actually change. Today, our biggest challenge is behavioral science. We have to change mindsets and behaviors.
But what happens is, what you say, if you take it, see, like you said, the other side of it will be, what is this Kohli or what is Rajka? They are all wealthy, they are all, they come and preach us, who are they to preach?
They're not preaching. The
They're
moment your
giving
tone
us
is preachy is different.
whatever.
No, it has to be light touch, humor, and definitely not preaching.
No, it will
See,
have
for example, this is a role model, follow this is preaching.
No, I agree.
You see,
I agree, it will have an impact. But I think a permanent impact will be to show ordinary people, ordinary walks of life, what they have done.
but that is talking down to them. According to me, I have run into enough people who actually are role models. My Porna Karmika on my road, I really like her. In fact, we make it a point. One thing is on the association will call you. But when you see a Porna Karmika with a diligence that she actually does what a Porna Karmika is supposed to do, many of them don't. You suddenly find that you have a role model who is actually going back to the lower income households and living a decent, dignified life the way they are supposed to do. To me, that is, so it's contrarian to what you're pushing me to, so I would like to push back on the whole idea. That's the whole idea.
I think the whole
I personally feel anything that talks down, and I believe the other individual, I'm a wiser person to convey something to him, I've lost the battle.
I think how we talk is also important. If you don't talk down.
But Doc, the bigger thing in my learning is being a good listener. Most of us are not good listeners. And I am the biggest problem. My wife keeps telling me, you interject before the person can this thing. They say, just shut up and listen.
Art of listening is very important.
I personally feel the more we learn the listening art, society will be better.
No, that's absolutely true. There's no question. Even in board meetings, others where I see you are talking, trying to make a point, somebody else interjects immediately as you start. Sometimes you have to say, please hear me completely. Then don't make up your mind before you hear
Exactly.
me. So
and Doc, I want to tell one point which is on urban planning. I know it's coming off syllabus. You spoke about health. I've always held this view, and I want to use this platform. Those in power we need to use the framework of vulnerability planning as a planning forum to fix the city. You asked about how do we fix the city. Today what we happen when it comes to the vulnerable, we feel they need protection. So, there's been a flood somewhere, they need protection. Something else has happened, they need protection, is how government tends to look at it. My belief is, if all planning is done for the most vulnerable in society, the rest of society will automatically benefit. And let me give you one or two examples. If we take health, the most vulnerable people in health in Bangalore were those who are living next to stormwater drains, those who are living next to landfills, those who are living a certain distance away from primary health centers of any kind.
Correct.
Now, if you want a vulnerability planning and you want to fix health, and of course there are pollution and other externality effects that are there, you have to have policies. Can I have a stormwater drain without sewerage so that the health in that stormwater drain area improves? Can I get away from my landfill model so that that health problem gets solved? So we need to develop what I call a vulnerability framework. On the streets, the most vulnerable person is the pedestrian, because they are the ones who die. So our Tender Shore project, I was part of making Tender Shore happen. The roads that you see with footpaths was a project of 2005, which I championed, and what you see there is a product of that evangelizing. Went to the Chief Secretary and said, the most vulnerable person is the pedestrian, and while motorists require road length, pedestrians require footpath.
Correct.
And that is how when you see residency roads, Vittal Malya road, St. Mark's Road, they all started to prove that idea. And those were supposed to be exemplars. The reason they were done in the city center is people will look at it and say, "Ee tara road nange beku." I mean, we want this kind of a road. That's really this thing that happens.
No, it's a phenomenal transformation. I know that Shed Street, MG Road and all.
And not only that, and the extension of that logic, if you leave the way to the airport near ST Mall, etc., within the city, I believe pedestrians must cross at grade. When you say pedestrian is the most important, make the vehicular traffic stop and allow the pedestrian to cross. Only then you are. So when there's a conflict between a pedestrian requirement and a motorist requirement, you rule in favor of the pedestrian. You don't, our maidservants, many of them just walk home. I mean, they need footpaths, they're vulnerable.
You have a very important, and I am a very big proponent of that, trying to bring in traffic lights for pedestrians. And I also have a personal interest when we look at it, because my son, who was born in US, is here with us. He has a muscular dystrophy disease, where he was told he won't live beyond 16, but he is 35, he's in a wheelchair. The reason until recently he couldn't go out in Bangalore because of this. Now with what has happened in Church Street and all, he can go and have a cup of coffee, in fact, on his wheelchair.
I know. I mean, what he's got as muscular dystrophy, I mean, I can't even, I'll tell you, for the first time in my life, this is my first week without my cast and 100% load on my leg. So 8 weeks I was grounded, 6 weeks and then 50% load and all that, the routine. This is my first thing of being grounded, wheelchair, I had to go somewhere. And though I've been involved in urban planning, etc., I realized how unfriendly the city is in terms of thing. And my first meeting was to go to the Vidhan Sauda, the seat of our city. And
no accessibility.
Accessibility, there's one temporary thing that's been created, etc. It is so sad. And these are the invisibles. The people in wheelchairs are invisible.
Like you said, do one at a time. My son has converted about 15 restaurants to put a wheelchair. He calls them, talks to the manager.
Fantastic.
And say does, but it is one at a time.
Fantastic.
But like I said, drop in the ocean.
But it is required. Yeah. And many of us, either till, this personal experience of mine on disabled access, my outlook in the last 8 weeks has changed. It's despite being 25 years in this. Now when I go to a place, I'm looking at it, where's the disability access, which has happened because of this setback.
Now talking about this, one of the other things we always build about is the brain issue, the research, development, urban, rural, science, whatever it is. Why our best minds are going abroad? What is it? Why it is happening? There are various reasons. Recently, one of the Nobel laureates of Indian origin wrote...
And so that they won't come back to India because of
they don't come to India because of the filth, the roads, and not enough encouragement. It can never happen, he said. Anyway, I wrote back saying, I wrote on the media saying it's okay if you don't come, but at least we'll make sure our people don't go. Because people, you all went from India. He also went from India. So don't forget where you are from. You are from here. Your brilliance came from here. People today run Microsoft, Google, World Bank are all Indian born. So we have to be proud of what we are. And how do we come up with a system to retain them? Some people say the traffic, some people say the field. Like for example, headquarters in Bangalore is a huge place, 7,000. Beautiful, meticulous. But if you go driving to that on that area, there is nothing but filth around it. Why don't you take up this project and clean? We never thought about it. Every day you drive through filth to your building, but why don't you clean? So why is it we don't have that, and what can we do in your view to retain this kind of talent?
So, to the last one on the Siemens example you mentioned, I always call it as private splendor, public squalor.
Yes.
The other day I went to a MNC on Outer Ring Road. Inside that, I could be anywhere in the world in that building. Moment you hit the reality of Main Street, the public squalor and the traffic hits you. Coming to the Nobel laureate whom I know, to his credit, I must say, though he did make that they will not come because that's his view, and I don't totally disagree with his view that people may not come back. To his credit, I must say, and I have been in a session, he is talking to rich Indian industrialists and philanthropists to spend money on science and an R&D culture. So I want to give him that credit that in his time, whenever he comes to India, he is trying to rally the Indian money for Indian science and R&D, saying not enough is going there. So I just want to state that point about him. I'm fond of him for one reason. When I spoke to him, he told me, I was the same chemistry prof the day before the Nobel laureate, and I was the same the day after, and nothing has changed, very humble, etc. Coming back, this thou shall not, it's finally market forces are operating. Currently, one thing is happening globally, particularly US driven, that they're driving people out and being unwelcome to people of talent. So either way, part of the problem is getting solved by other countries' approaches that this is happening. The question for us to ask is, we should not be saying, just feel proud to be an Indian and stay on and serve in India. We have to make it worthwhile to serve in India, and therefore the benefit. So I really think it takes two hands to clap.
I think you have to provide the ecosystem.
The ecosystem.
And we are on the verge of it. For example, when I went abroad, research was not there. The technology, we went for that reason. But now, all the technology, I can tell you, in medical field, research, everything is there. I think some effort has to be made. Now, recently, fortunately, government also said they will fund for research in private also, some 1 lakh crores. So if that comes without corruption, I think definitely it will benefit.
So I tell you, that's the way to go. For example, the Commerce Minister got very angry. We are building apps, AI and all is happening. What are you guys doing? Where is the Microsoft and Google out of India? The question to ask government is, where have you created the ecosystem to create those kind of platforms? Now, for example, you take cancer where you know the area very well and similar areas. Innovation thrives when there are constraints. And there is no other country with as many constraints as India is. It's one of the reasons that we are the low-cost capital of the world in healthcare. Correct. You want innovation in healthcare, it is not going to come from European countries. In
fact, when Harvard Business School did study on us 5 years in a row, they were amazed that we can get the same outcome for breast cancer, they calculated, equal to best of centers in the world at 1/8 the cost.
Exactly. Or you look at the biosimilars that are happening out of here. You look at our thing in generic drugs. We have...
And a problem with that is we are becoming copycats. We are not researchers. We have tremendous opportunity come with new drugs. We have recently, there has been some movement in developing our own drugs, which is very important. I think the costs have come down because of AI technology and all. So future looks very bright.
No, but the mindset has to change. Here again, a behavioral science is required. For example, you take IT. Somebody famously said, I think it was Dr. CNR saying we are IT coolies and we're not doing this thing, etc.
I also said that.
You also said that. Okay. This is again a mindset. We are a great services mindset company. We are not a product mindset of our own. We will work to develop great products for overseas. Even let's take urban planning. As we speak, Bangalore has at least 1,000 people solving traffic problems across the world on the IT as a service thing.
Correct, correct.
And Bangalore's traffic problem is sitting
You
unsolved.
bring up a very important point. Like I always said, having been in US, initially America brought, unfortunately, slaves to do their cotton. America became wealthy through cotton growing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Then they brought Chinese to do roll building at low cost. Then they brought like IT, coolies to do their IT. But and no research. And when we ask them why is the research, and some of this IT, like you said very well, they're not contributing to India. They're beginning to, but not. Right. When you ask their quarter to quarter numbers, where am I going to show numbers? So this is the fallacy of the system where we have to internalize and do. For example, in our own HCG, just to say, I totally discourage people from coming from abroad, giving us lectures. Like you said, giving you the GAN. We don't want GAN. We say we are competent enough, we'll do. People have come from MD, other areas. Why? Let me take the long road. Because then we learn. See, in our tumor board, Mr. Ravichandar, people say, why didn't you do this? He says there is no evidence. Man, can't you create evidence? Evidence is a moving target. Today, what is evidence changes tomorrow. You want somebody in the West to change. That inherent thought process is gone.
Right.
That research is gone. It is shocking.
Right.
To be honest, it is shocking. I think we are doing in the medical field whatever we can, but it is a daunting task. If you ask me what I have in Bangalore, Center of Excellence, do I have it in, for example, other centers? We have 27 centers.
I know.
No, I don't have the same quality because it's not possible. Even though recently they're changing, because the mindset, the training, see, we have to attack the training, medical school training, this training. How do we bring research?
Even in government, I work a lot with government. Government has zero evidence-based decision making in their DNA. It's not there.
Today, for example, one of my very important person, our CEO asked me over breakfast, how many trials are going on in India? I hear 100 trials. Why are we not doing? Recently there has been some controversy. All of this we talked about. I said, look, in India, I showed him an evidence from an authority who had written a mail. The only 25 oncology trials in India out of 60, nothing more than that. Because India is not conducive. By the time somebody wants to trial, approves, DCJ approves, the trial is already getting over. He was shocked. I said, this is a data. So we are all become data.
I know.
Please, perception is different from data. So we have to do this, we have to mine the data, you are absolutely right. Even poverty index, even education, like you said, government's decision has to be based on data. Unfortunately, I don't think that is happening.
There is everybody, there is know-it-all. I mean, whether it's the bureaucracy or the political leadership.
Metro bureaucrat is healthcare bureaucrat tomorrow, he knows. It is an outstanding example to me. They become experts in the field. And our expert doctors are listening to it and say, yes, sir, yes, sir. I said, I called them aside and said, what is this, man? So we have to rethink. So coming to the part, you have given a lot of really insights, your phenomenal insight into what we also believe is how do we contribute CSR in different forms? How do we take up children to develop this? So what is your final thought process and all this as you move forward? I believe we should become very active. Activism is important, and also not really fight the system, but take on issues and issue-based take it up and fight. I don't personalize. We believe we should not personalize any political individual or bureaucrat. Go after the issue and say, I disagree with you. And debates, this thing, and creating a movement among the people who believe in it. So what is your view?
I would actually provide the answer in two tracks. It's my belief activism is very important. People investing time in creating mass movements, getting people around a particular theme. Activists who hold the system, their feet to the fire, take them to court. I believe it's a very, very important part, what is colloquially called civil society and civil society activism. A lot of my friends are activists. I am not an activist. To my mind, it is extremely important. My learning of 25 years coming down a pragmatic route, how can I in a dysfunctional system get some good outcomes, etc. Mine is more in the area of what I would call collaboration. My belief is that you can achieve more change, and my experience is more in trying to get government to change some of the ways they do, that you are likely to achieve more change if you followed a few rules. That you went in and tried to do the change without a hidden agenda of your own. You didn't want something from the system. You can achieve change in the system if you are non-threatening to the system or to the people concerned. You can get the change done if you're not seeking the credit that you are the author of the change. And therefore, my belief is there are skills in the private sector which are required in the government sector. There are challenges in the government sector which only government people understand how to do in that system to be able to deliver. And therefore, we need to find collaborative partnerships. This is different from PPP, public-private partnership, because public-private partnership, the private is there for business, the public is there to fix the place. Mine is public-private collaboration, where the willingness of the private is to get involved for a larger public good. It is not a good that benefits my business or my sector or my geographic area, but the benefit is to a larger society, and therefore it comes under the social responsibility, whether it's corporate or individual social responsibility. So that's my learning, that there is a space, and my belief is that if you want change on some reasonable scale, whether it's city level, rural level, whatever, etc., getting government, the 800-pound gorilla, to navigate the change that is required is a useful area working on. So a lot of my area has gone in trying to get government to change something through this model. But I've realized that the failure rates are very high. I'm a self-confessed patron saint of lost causes. I have lost more battles than I have won. I won 3 or 4 battles in 25 years. And I've lost 95, 100 battles I've lost over the last 25 years. That's with government. So the cycle times of change are very long and success rates are very low. So I have consciously for myself decided that while I will continue to do that, I will focus on what I call privately enabled public purpose spaces. So if you see my current efforts right now, whether it's the Bangalore Lit Fest, the Bangalore Habba, Sabha or Bangalore International Center, all of them are public purpose, public space creation, either as physical spaces or events, which is not dependent on government. In fact, I go to government and say, I don't want any money from you.
Correct.
Can you stay out of the way? Allow us to do what we can do. I may come to you for some permissions. Please give me the permissions. Basically getting government to be an enabler and allowing the private to do what the private can do well. But be an enabler. Don't be the 800-pound gorilla in the middle of that particular thing.
What you have said resonates. Some of the people have said in the past, like again quoting Thoreau, he said government is the best which governs the least. And Emerson said Thoreau said government is the best which doesn't govern at all.
At all.
Emerson said, no, I will modify it a little bit. Government is the best which governs the least.
Like that.
I think you are absolutely right. Whether it is healthcare or others, government should become a monitoring agency. Make sure its ideas are put in.
Correct.
But again, it depends on who the government is. If our elected representatives have their own vested interests, like for example, a representative is coming initially in a bicycle. By the time he reaches the end of his term, he is driving a fancy car. Obviously he's not the right person. There are issues. So we have seen this all the time.
Even in education, for example.
And even government bodies like Niti Aayog and all, they don't have private advisors. They all go by government advice. The Indian healthcare, 78% private healthcare is what? But they don't want to have a single private healthcare advisor. There are a lot of issues which has to be addressed. But I believe based on when I came back, honestly, lot of my friends in major cancer institute in India, you can never do this. What is this 26 centers transforming oncology in India? It's impossible. Right. You just stick to one center. I took it. And I feel somewhat successful having done
No,
this.
you have been very successful.
So
I mean,
this-
you are that role model.
Yeah, it has not only wrong, but it has taught me maybe a movement is possible. The added to this is the Gundalpet. When we are now generating 15,000 women who are willing to abide and say we will follow and willing to transform, it shows their people may be ready. As they become a little bit educated, we can give this kind of awareness and do. It may be a failure, but I feel a movement is needed to bring in right people. Even an institute, a think tank, what I'm planning on, we'll discuss later, is to create future politicians. Ethics, what transparency, how do we create ideology oriented? So can we create that, for example.
All worthwhile measures, definitely worthwhile.
It is an attempt. A failure will, like you said, you failed more, we will also fail.
No, you learn more from failure than from success.
So I think we should end this on a very positive note, saying that hearing your remarkable work and what you're doing is very commendable. I only want to see that more people come to know about your work and more people get involved, even college students, others, everybody get involved will make a difference. I hope we will continue this conversation in future and do a lot of things together as people have the same ideology, same DNA. And I once again thank you really for having come here and participated in this podcast. I think it will be very useful for people to learn. And sometime we will also do in Kannada and everything else. We make sure people across send it. And thank you again. I don't know if you have any final words, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Clearly, we are a mutual admiration society. So I've always had amazing, respect for the kind of things that you have done. And to me, the doctor thing is one, but that you have extended to this whole Gundalpet experiment and then thinking of doing other things is even more commendable, because what you've achieved in the cancer space itself is enough for many lifetimes. To add the other dimensions is really extremely encouraging and more power to your elbow. Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.